Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me live. Everyone that will be watching the replay. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if it's the first time that we're meeting, my name is Isabel Martins from healthandnaturallife.com, and I work with energy, consciousness, energy healing, animal communication, broader energy fields. Understanding them, connecting with them, working with them, learning about consciousness, learning about ourselves, who we are, what we are made of, how we interact, how we create the world around us. And that's what I love, and that's what I share as well. I love to share these things. Some of them you might resonate with them, some of them don't, you might not, but it's a discovery process that we're all going through here. And today on this video I wanted to share something that's a shift in perception that will help us move from feeling swayed by everything that's happening, chaos inside and out pretty much, to making that shift in perception and being present and experiencing the peace that is always already here, inside and outside. But before we actually go into that, let me just give you a little bit of a broader context to what I'll be sharing, so that it then makes more sense. Probably is not the first time that you're hearing this, but listening to these things in a kind of wrapped package makes more sense sometimes. The things that we already know, they click at a deeper perspective, and that's what happened for me this week. What I'll be sharing with you is something that I've been exploring for quite a while now, but this week I was listening to a book by Sandy Newbigging, and the book is called Body Calm. And the way that he just explained and laid out things, it was so concise and so practical and clear that it just made the knowing that I already had embodied expand a lot more. And it helped me this week when I was feeling a lot of pain, physical pain, on one of these days, and it helped me get to deeper levels of peace and internal stillness than I've ever remember knowing. And I come from experiencing OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior, so I can appreciate peace, and this shift in perception helped me get into a level of peace that is beyond what I've experienced so far. So the broader context. We are living in a world that's, well, let's call it chaotic. It's very busy, both outside and inside, because our society, and let me just give you maybe a little bit of context as well for what we are experiencing, especially this year in 2020, is that we are moving up the scale of consciousness. If you're familiar with Dr. David Hawkins' work, I think he explained this probably most in Power versus Force, is that there's a scale of consciousness that we move from, and this could be also called the scales of emotions. And at the bottom of that scale are emotions like shame. Above that there's guilt. Above that there's fear. Above that there's anger. Then there's pride. Then there's courage. Then it's a scale that moves up in terms of consciousness and in terms of energy available to the being that's experiencing that. As a collective and as a society, we have had a lot of shame and guilt repressed and suppressed for at least quite a few hundred years, not to say more. And especially in this time, this year, we have been so subjected to fear-mongering that it just triggered a rapid, almost compaction of that energy, and then a rapid type of explosion from our collective consciousness to move out of that fear consciousness. And the move up and into a higher level from that level of fear is actually anger. And that's what we're seeing in the world. Anger that's moving. Sometimes it moves down, so it's moving into guilt, and that's not useful, although it might be if it's conscious to go into the guilt and move it up the scale as well into fear, into anger. and then into courage and into peace, but we're seeing it move upwards. So that energy that was compacted starting to release, move up the emotional scale to move from force into power, into greater levels of real, true power. So we'll see the anger, we'll see it move up into maybe pride, or maybe we just go straight from that to the level of courage to start making changes, and then up to the level of love, where we're really relating and connecting from that very positive and very life-giving energy field. I was just, let's call it a little bit of an aside to maybe give a wider understanding of what's happening. And it's not that it's one thing on top of another, everything hitting on us. No, it's just moving up the scale, the dimensional, the levels of consciousness and emotional scales. We're moving in the right direction. And okay, so I wanted this as well to be a little bit maybe of a broader understanding, but our society as a general is very busy, and there's a very fast pace to things nowadays. And we as a species, we are very object oriented, and I'll expand on this a little bit later, because we are very focused on things, we are very focused on objects, on, let's say, physical objects even, and our society is very cluttered in visual terms. There's things everywhere, there isn't a broad space. And then we are very cluttered as well as a society in auditory terms, so there's always something going on, there's always music, there's always a radio, there's always TV. Silence is almost unheard of these days, yeah, but you can hear silence. And internally we're very cluttered as well, so we're very focused on the objects that pop up within us, whether they're thoughts, internal sensations, emotions, physical feelings, everything. Because we are naturally very object oriented, when we have our attention put outside, our energy and our awareness just gets scattered all over the place and is swayed by everything that's happening. And that does not make for a peaceful internal state of being, especially when we couple that with our habit of resisting things. So there are things that we like, there are things that we don't like. Fair enough, that will always probably be the case. But we usually grab onto the things that we like, and we don't want to let go of them, so we create attachments, and we usually push against the things that we don't like, so we create aversions, resistance there, and this creates a lot of tension inside, which again does not make for a peaceful inner state. So besides the fact that everything outside and inside of us is object filled, so there's a lot of things happening all over the place, outside and in, and we being object focused are like, I don't really like the analogy of headless chickens, that's just cruel, but yeah, you get the point. We're scattered all over the place, and couple that with the fact that we are very prone to resist what we don't want and what we don't like, and try to hold on, grab on to the things that we do like, and that creates even more tension. It's just a recipe for us to never be in a state of inner peace. So what I wanted to share today is a shift from that content focus into a context focus. And these two words are the words that I heard from Sandy Newbegin, the way that he explained it, and they just made a lot of sense to me, so I'm going to use them. And it's the fact that, for instance, even for visual content, the things that we see all around us, there's furniture, for me there's a computer, for you there's a screen, the things exist, the objects exist in the context. So they exist for me, for instance, in a room, in a building, and then in a broader context still of a continent, of a planet. So it's almost like we're talking about objects within broader objects. but ultimately everything that's an object, that's content, exists within an even broader context, which is space. So for things to exist, there needs to be space in them for them to exist in. And even if we can put this analogy into sound as well. For instance, for us to perceive sound, for sound to actually exist in our experience, there needs to be silence. If there was a huge just block of let's imagine, sound that was so loud, that was all that we perceived, people talking or music playing would not exist for us. So the broader context of the objects of sound is silence. And even in quantum physics, which is the most mystical of our sciences, they say that even our physical objects, including our physical body, it's when we get down to the building blocks, which is what we are all made of, it goes from, before it was particles, so we had objects, atoms that were solid, then we had atoms that were pretty much, there's a solid core of it, neutrons, and then there's electrons that maybe are kind of solid, but they're just hovering around in clouds of electrons. And now we're at the point where it just goes, well, nothing of that really exists. It's all just waves, electromagnetic waves that at some point condense into flashing on as particles, and then they flash off into wave again and flash on, and we perceive them as solid particles, and then they flash off, pure waves again. So even the objects that we are aware of, including our body and our emotions and our thoughts, they are made of mostly space. It's electromagnetic energy that has a certain frequency, certain information, a certain level of aggregation of density or not. They flash in and flash out. So let's say that half the time, and I'm guessing here, there's nothing really here, there, anywhere. It's everything just flashed off into just pure space, which for me would be probably the 0 point field, which is the broader context within which all of the objects that we are aware of, including our thoughts, including our emotions, including sounds, including our body, everything comes out of that, is manifested within that and from that. So it's a little bit of a roundabout way to go about, but just to say that everything that we perceive in terms of objects, whether it's sound, whether it's physical objects, whether it's a thought, an emotion, a physical sensation, all of these things are just objects, that content that exists within a broader context. And that context is space. That context is silence. It's stillness. And why is this important? This is very important because our mind and our body experience what we place our awareness on. So if we're paying attention to objects, that's what our mind will experience, the objects that we are paying attention to, and that's what our body will experience as well, the objects. But so the chaos, the running around, the confusion, the busyness of our world, internal world and external world. But if we broaden our awareness and just, instead of paying attention to objects, we just open our awareness and become aware. And there's a difference between attention and awareness, and we'll go to that as well. Become aware of the context within which these content objects are popping in. So the space, the stillness, the silence, our body and our mind will experience that. The spaciousness, the silence, the stillness. And it really does not matter what's happening outside or in. We will feel that peace, even in the middle of outside chaos, loud noises, people running around, us even having internal physical sensations, we will still be able to experience the peace, no matter what. And that is a very natural and very healthy and healing way of just being more and more, because this takes practice, because again, we're very content oriented, object oriented. To make that shift from object to context, that takes a little bit of practice, but it's fun, and it's something that we'll feel the results immediately. So it kind of creates a interesting, let me do more of that. So let's just give it a try. I was talking about attention and awareness as being different things. So if I say to you, just put your attention on your body, try it. And you probably notice that your attention went to something that's louder in your body, something that called your attention. Might be discomfort, it might be hungry, that was coming up for me. It might be sitting down, might be cold, might be hot. So something in your body called your attention. It's a more focused, a more object-oriented way of perceiving things. But if I just ask you now to just become aware of your body, notice, you could just become aware of your body. You notice the difference? It's not so focused, intent on something. It's a more almost diffuse perception. And even in just that, moving from attention to a broader awareness, there's a degree of calming down already, because we are softening our focus and we're becoming more context oriented. So our body becomes the context in which the little sensations that our attention was focused on is happening. So the broader we make our awareness, the more that we are context oriented. And if I ask you, for instance, to look at an object in the place where you're at, something in front of you, just focus on the object. That's focus awareness. You are locked into the object. But if I ask you to just be aware of the space in between you and the object, you can't really look and try to grab the space. It's more of a feeling sense. Just become aware, the same way that you are aware, but that you place your awareness of your body on your body. Just become aware of the space between you and the object. You can also become aware of the space that's all around you, behind you. And at the same time, you can also become aware, if you want, of the silence that's underneath all the sounds. So if I were to talk continuously, and if I were to talk actually louder, even if you have a sound that's loud, 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 when it stops, you kind of feel that something happens and your awareness shifts into being aware and probably even pay attention a little bit to the silence. But if we want, we can also perceive just the silence. And for some people, this will be easier. paying attention to the silence, people who are more auditory. For visual people, it might be the space in between things feels more easy to perceive. For kinesthetic people, it might just be that feeling sense of spaciousness all around us and in between objects. Just play with the three most common ways that we perceive things. It's visual, see the space in between things and just become aware of the space around the objects. With sounds, notice the sound and then shift your awareness to perceive the silence in which the sound moves. The way that I perceive it, and it might be just particular for me, is that for a sound to reach me, it needs to come through space, and that space needs to be empty for the sound to reach me. So there's a sort of a visual, auditory feeling sense that I get when I'm perceiving the silence. Silence for me, it's always coupled with space, with the emptiness of the space around me in which the sound travels to me. And then there's the internal sensations, and this one can be fascinating. If you scan your body and just notice something that you're feeling, just put your attention there first, so you'll become object oriented. Put your attention on a sensation, and then just broaden your awareness to just feel the space in which the sensation is being felt, and even more the spaciousness in which your body is flashing on and off of. So you're pretty much sitting in completely empty space, not even sitting, because your entire body is just flashing on and off of that vast, let's call it a 0-point field. For me, I see it as completely just black prior to even light photons manifesting. For you, it might be something else. Yeah. And this is the experience that we can get when we start focusing on the context. If this makes, if this clicks for you, because it is a felt experience, if it clicks for you, you will start feeling the peace, you start feeling the calmness, you start feeling the, I really can't put it in other words, the stillness, the peace, the calmness inside of you, even when you're feeling internal sensations, and you broaden from the attention on the content to the awareness of the context, either silence, spaciousness, or stillness. And you start, it's a felt experience. It's really hard to put words into it. Besides, you'll start feeling the peace. You'll start feeling your entire body relax, settle down. The tension just melt. And the more that you practice this, the more that you'll be able to just pay attention as you go about your day. Pay attention to the space as you move. Pay attention to the silence, even in crowded, loud places. Pay attention to the stillness, even when everything around you seems to be running around. And I don't need to sell you on the benefits of this. This is something that we all want, crave, desire, because it is our natural state of being. So I hope you play with this, because again, this is something that it takes practice for most of us, at least. And it's something that we can do with playfulness, because the more tension we put into it, trying to make it happen, the more it won't work. It's more of a curiosity to explore, paying attention to the space in between objects, feeling that spaciousness, feeling or becoming aware of the silence in which the sounds move, all of that. Something that I really do hope you play with, and that I hope it was helpful. So let me know if you have any questions, comments. You can share this video, and if you have anything else that you want to even suggest for us to talk about, just let me know. Thank you for joining me live, and I'll see you on the next video.